Hi, Maria. It's about 3 after 10. So whenever you are ready, it looks like we have our attendees here. And if anyone comes in late, I'll go ahead and welcome them in the chat.
Okay, wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Maria. And today we are going to go ahead and do a DIY fabric planter. And it's very exciting. This is what the end project looks like. So my planter's in here. But this is what it looks like. And you can make this in a lot of different sizes. And the cool thing is that you can just buy the cheaper pot and put it in a really beautiful fabric planter. That way you can show it off in your home, outside. And the cool thing too is that we're going to be using outdoor fabric. So it is going to be a little bit more water friendly. And just the one thing I would just say is that when you do water your plant, just take it out, let it drain, and then put it back into your planter just to keep your fabric planter nice and, you know, like new. So there is a pattern that goes along with this tutorial or with this project. And it looks something like this. You should have received it from Amber. If you did not receive it, you can go ahead and put a comment in the box and Amber will go ahead and send that over to you. It would have come from the email address of gagliardiamber at Middle Country, I guess, PL, I think it is, .org. But this is what your pattern looks like, and it comes along with your directions. All right, so first things first, I did pre-cut some of my fabric just because I don't have the room to really wiggle the full half yard to show you how to cut it, but we're going to go through step by step either way. So once you've located your pattern, you can go ahead and cut the circle out. Now this is for a 6-inch planter. So what I used was just my little dish that goes under the planter to catch the water. And I just went ahead and traced it. So if you do not have a pattern or you are working with something a little bit different, go ahead and just use the bottom of your planter and just go ahead and trace it. Now, you do have to do a little bit of math when you're adjusting the pattern. So let's say you have a saucer that's like 8 inches. So you're still going to add that 1 inch around the circumference of your circle. But then you're going to multiply the full diameter by 3.14. And that is going to give you ultimately how wide we're going to go ahead and cut the body of the fabric. So again, if you do not have a pattern or if you'd like to make this for a different planter that is not 6 inches, you can just go ahead and follow that. Once again, you would just trace it on your paper. And then when you're cutting, you're going to go ahead and do the same 1 inch as we do in the instructions. And you would just multiply by 3.14, and that will give you the width of the body. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start. I went ahead and I cut my pattern out. So this is for my 6-inch saucer. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and not center it, but keep it really close to the edge to either, you can start with either of your fabrics. Today I'm using canvas and outdoor fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and line it up as best as possible where I'm going to get 1 inch on each side of my circle. So I'm going to measure out the 1 inch. And I'm going to go ahead and show you and mark it with a permanent marker, like a black marker, just so you can see what I'm doing. Please use a fabric marker just in case, because obviously this guy won't wash off very well. So, but that's what I'm using just to show you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the 1 inch over here. I'm going to do this on all of the sides of my circle. Now, if you find that your circle is shifting a little bit, just go ahead and pin the center so it doesn't move anywhere. Okay. And just keep doing that. Just keep measuring 1 inch around. And ultimately, that's what you're going to cut out. So it's the pattern plus the 1 inch, or the tracing of your planter plus the 1 inch all the way around. Okay, so I'm finishing that my way around. Now you could do this measuring with your tape measure, with your ruler, whatever you have on hand is pretty good. But as you can see, I made my markings. So I'm going to go ahead and prop this over. I'm just going to go over with my marker on the markings I made so you guys can see well. Okay, I think that's good. So as you can see what I did here, and I hope you can see that well, I marked 1 inch from my cutout all the way around. Okay, and these dashed lines are the ones that I'm going to go ahead and cut for the bottom of our planter. So I'm just going to use regular scissors for this, nothing crazy. I find that sometimes using the rotary cutter for things that have a curve is a little tricky for me, so I just use scissors, which is fine. And a quick note about scissors, never use your fabric scissors on paper. That'll ruin your scissors. So just keep your fabric scissors separate. Label them if you have to. Okay, and your circle doesn't have to be perfect. As always, I like my things a little imperfect. Okay, so this is my first circle. Okay, so this is going to be either the inside or the outside of my planter, depending on what I want to do. We'll decide that in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same step here. Now, you can do one of two things. You can go ahead and just put this guy here and just trace it and cut it, or you can just start from square one and do the measurement all around. So it's up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and line it up. And I'm going to pin it in place. Okay, and just start cutting. So if I didn't mention before, and I might have just been too excited to start the project, but for this project, you're just going to need straight pins, scissors, and your half yard of fabric. So if you're using 2 different fabrics, you'll be using a half yard of each of the fabric that you are choosing or using. And that's pretty much it. And just your sewing machine and your thread and your fabric marker. So. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that aside. Now I have my 2 circles. So these are going to be the bottoms of our fabric planter. I'm going to put these aside. Okay, I don't need them anymore. Now, if you are using the pattern that we sent you with the instructions, the planter body measurements are already on here. So we're going to go ahead and cut from our 2 pieces of fabric, a 25 1/4 by 12 1/2. Now, I've already done this. As I mentioned, I don't have a lot of wiggle room here right now, so I've already pre-cut them, but you can go ahead and take your time and cut that. As I mentioned, if you are using a different size planter, you can go ahead and just measure the circles that you have here. And you're gonna just measure the diameter, so from one side to the other side. And you're gonna multiply that by 3.14, and that is gonna give you the width of your body. And then you're gonna go ahead and measure how tall your planter is, and you can add as many inches as you want from the top of that for, you know, to fold over. So you can go ahead and take a minute to do that. In the meantime, I'm just going to make sure my machine is threaded correctly, which, you know, I did this prior, but I'm going to make sure everything's in the right setting, just so we have everything in place. Okay. I'll give you a couple of minutes for that. Okay. So I hope that was enough time for you guys. If not, no worries. I'll go ahead and explain this a little bit once I'm done. But okay, so we're going to take our fabrics, and you're going to start with one. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the canvas fabric. Now, the reason why I chose canvas instead of two outdoor fabrics was because the canvas fabric is sturdier. Like it doesn't droop as much. So as you can see, I can actually like stand it up and it's not drooping too much. But this is my outdoor and it like just flops over. So it's not as sturdy. And I really just like the sturdiness of the canvas. And I find that it's very easy to sew too. Even on like a basic machine like this one, that's not really meant for a lot of heavy duty projects. I find that it's very easy to sew, and it won't cause any type of bend in my needle or anything like that. And of course, as usual, start with a fresh needle. Anytime you're starting a new project, a fresh needle helps a whole of a lot. It avoids a lot of different problems. We are going to have a tutorial on how to set up your machine later this week, which is very exciting. And I'm going to show you how to thread the machine, how to go ahead and wind your bobbin, how to load it. And it'll just make things a little bit simpler for you. So you can watch that tutorial anytime you're about to start one of these wonderful webinars with projects. Alrighty, so I'm going to shift my machine a little bit so I can see a little better. But what we're going to do is we have our fabric. This is the 25 1/4 going the width, and then we have the 12 1/2 the long way. So what we're going to do is we're going to, let me back up. This canvas fabric doesn't have a right or a wrong side. When I talk about right and wrong sides, we're really talking about the right side being where your pattern is nice and vibrant, and then the wrong side being where it's the back of the fabric, where it's just kind of dull and not so pretty. So our canvas fabric does not have a right or a wrong side, so you can just pick whatever you like. But if you are using a fabric that does have a right and a wrong side, you are going to go ahead and put the right sides together. So, and we're going to go ahead and fold in the middle in half, and you're going to line up right sides together on the short end. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to pin in place. Okay. Pin in place so nothing shifts. Now, I know I've gone through this a few times in my different projects. It doesn't really matter how you pin sometimes. For this particular project, I just pinned it right along in the mid, like a little bit further from the top. Nothing crazy. Sometimes you can pin as so where your pin is, you know, closer to the top and it'll be facing up. It's really whatever your preference is and whatever's not going to get you pricked, you know, and get yourself hurt, because these are sharp little needles. So we're going to go ahead and sew along the short edge, and we're going to use a straight stitch for this. And my setting right now is on a 3 on the stitch length, and it's on this straight stitch setting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And here we go. Okay, we're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So just go ahead and line it up with your stitch plate. And here we go. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and raise our needle and take this guy out. Okay, I like to cut my talons. Wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to do this once again with our other piece of fabric. So you're really going to end up with a tube, like a sleeve, if you will. Okay, so that's what you're going to end up with, and we're going to put this aside. And once again, this particular fabric does have a right side, which is this one, and a wrong side, which is the back, that doesn't have the vibrant colors. So I hope you can see the difference. Right side and then wrong side. So we're going to put right sides together. And we're going to go ahead and fold down the middle so that your short ends are meeting. Okay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do the same. And we're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. Okay. Wonderful. So now we have 2 different tubes. Okay, so one with your pattern and one with your solid. Okay, so next step, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and clip up your notches. Actually, no, sorry, I skipped ahead. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and match our circles. Sorry, I skipped ahead a few steps. So we're going to go ahead and match our circles to our fabric. Now, I did mention notches. We clip notches sometimes on seam allowances just to reduce bulk. So I'll show you that in a minute, but that's kind of what I was talking about when I skipped over this very important step. So we're going to go ahead and match as best as possible our circle to our tube, and we're going to pin in place. So again, it really doesn't matter how you pin, but for this particular step, I do recommend you pinning upwards. So that would be like this. Okay, that way when you're sewing, the machine is going to go right over the pin, and you won't have to think about kind of like taking the pins out as you go. But we're going to do this as best as possible. Now, as you're pinning, you might think, you know what, this tube is too big for the circle. I think it's not going to match up. You know what, it's completely okay if it doesn't match up. You're not going to be able to tell. The first time I did it, it really didn't match up, and I was like, it's going to be all like weird, and you're going to see the crease, and there's going to be a gap. But really, I made it work, and you couldn't tell, and my planter looks beautiful. So embrace the errors and just go with that. As you can see here, and I'm sorry, I didn't mention this before, but we're pinning all the right sides together. So basically the circle right side and your tube the right side. So you're going to see all of the wrong side all the way around. Just in case I didn't mention that. I'm jumping around all day today, aren't I? Sorry about that, folks. I'm so excited about this planter. I feel like it's such a beautiful project.
Maria, where did you get your fabric from?
I actually got it from Joann's.
Okay.
So I love to feel the fabrics in person. There are a lot of online shops out there, but I just really like going to shop for fabric. It's something my husband doesn't let me do by myself sometimes, because I tend to just buy fabric for no reason. So I'm a little bit of a fabric hoarder sometimes. So yeah, it's a little bit of an addiction. And for you guys that know what I'm talking about, yeah, I'm with you there. Fabric's awesome. I just love feeling it and just going through all the rows and, you know. Okay, so this is what I was talking about before, where it seems like it's not going to match. So it's a little bit bulky. Well, not bulky, but it seems like as I pin, there's a little bit left over. So just feel free to tuck that in when you get closer to the seam, if you do have that little bubble popping up. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin my last pin over here. Okay, and my little bubble, I'm just gonna go ahead and tuck it right where the seam is, like it never happened. All right, so now we have something like this. So it looks, from the inside, you can see that it looks like it's gonna turn out great. This part is a little tricky just because, again, it's a circle that we're sewing. So for me, it's a little bit trickier, the circles. But you're gonna start like any other sewing. I'd like to start at the seam. I find that as a good guide to, tell me when to start and stop. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna start on the side where I have my pins, just so I can see that I'm not catching anything, and then I'm not, if anything's in the way, I can move it preemptively. So I'm gonna line this up. We're gonna try to do a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I do recommend going in for the 1/2 inch. But you can do a quarter as well. I feel like the 1/2 inch just gives me a little bit more wiggle room as I turn my fabric. So I'm going to line it up on my stitch plate. And here we go. I would go a little bit on the slower side, just so you don't go a little bit crazy as you're turning your fabric and going in the circle. Sometimes if you go too fast, you kind of derail yourself, kind of like a train. It's just going to cause mess. All right, let's go. So now I have sewn all the way around, okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and check for any type of gaps, anything like that, just to make sure if I have to go over anything, I can just go over it very quickly, taking my pins out ever so carefully. Okay. Okay. So that looks good. And you see the little bubble that I had before? I kind of just sewed over it. And it kind of looks like a little pleat. You won't ever notice it. So I'm going to go in and just feel for any gaps in my fabric from the inside. That looks pretty good to me. So let's look at it. That looks so nice. So see, you can barely notice that I had a little bubble in there, and it just kind of blends in all together. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside, okay, and we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with our canvas part. Okay. Alrighty, so since this doesn't have a right or a wrong side, just feel free to just pin away. Okay, and again, just matching up as best as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now, canvas is a little bit harder to pin just because it's a thicker, more sturdier fabric. Don't worry, you'll get it. Again, be careful not to prick your finger. It hurts. Beautiful. Okay. Oops. Now you might be asking, what about the clips that you sometimes see in other tutorials? They kind of look like little binder clips. They're supposed to be special for fabric, but quite honestly, I use little binder clips. I'll show you. Teeny tiny ones like this. And really, when you are using a lot of layers, you can go ahead and use those. But when a project like this one, where it just has 2 layers, it really doesn't make sense to use those little clips, just because they're not going to grab a lot, like tightly. So just use the straight needles. I find that that works the best for this type of project. But if you did have like a zipper installment or something like that, the little clips do help because they don't pucker your fabric. So you have like a nice neat.
I never thought about using those binder clips. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's, you know what? The fabric clips that they sell at the store, they're expensive, and they really are just little binder clips. So I just go to like the dollar store or to wherever and just get the teeny tiny little clips. So yeah, especially if you're doing something that has layers in it. That's a good. All right. Okie dokie. So here I have my bottom, and it's, you know, pinned down to my top, and I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. Okay. And once again, just do this very gently. Go slowly. No rush. And where's my seam? Here's my seam. I'm going to start at my seam. Now, as you're turning your fabric, you see that I'm adjusting my fabric. I'm just doing that so there's nothing really like puckering or getting in there and then getting stitched together. That shouldn't be. So that's what I'm doing. Now, you might be asking, Maria, why aren't you backstitching? I don't find the need to backstitch for this project at this stage, at least, just because everything's going to get sewn together. So if I am going to backstitch, I'm going to backstitch more when I'm finishing my project. But right now, you really don't need it, as long as you are making sure that you don't have anything kind of just open. There's no gaps. So I took out all my needles. Okay. And I'm just going to turn this around so you guys can see. I don't think I have any gaps. Good. And and that's what it looks like when it's the right side out. Okay. Okay, so it's one big sleeping bag for your planter. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this the wrong side out again. So remember I was talking about putting some notches. So basically, to make it a little less bulky on the bottom, I like to put some notches here. So the notches are really going to go in the space where your seam allowance is. I'm going to show you. You're just going to be very careful not to clip into your actual seam. And you're just going to do little triangles carefully into your fabric. So these little tiny scissors are not doing the trick for me. There it is. So see, your notches are going to go ahead and look like that. So you can definitely choose to do that. And I wouldn't put them like a lot in like 1 inch, per inch. Just do them sparingly around your project, and that should work just fine. So maybe like a couple of inches in between would be cool, and that would help out. But yeah, it reduces the bulk. Now, you can alternatively sew a zigzag stitch on the actual leftover of the seam allowance. That's just an extra step, but you can totally do that. It's up to you. So you can go ahead and, either do the zigzag stitch on it. I'll show you what that option is like. Okay, but these are the notches. So you'd be, do a notch here, a couple of inches in between. But if you wanted to do the zigzag, you can do that with your machine, no problem. And all you would have to do is set your dial to your stitch width, depending on the machine that you have. Mine just has a dial that goes from straight to zigzag. And yeah, that's about it. So let me just show you that really quick on the up part of my project and how that would look. So that would look like this. See that? That's a zigzag stitch, and that's going to reduce bulking as well. And it is going to secure your seams so there's no fraying in there. So if you have a fabric that does tend to fray a little bit, go ahead and do that zigzag. It's going to prevent the fraying, and it's going to keep your project lasting a lot longer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let you do your notches right now. I'm going to go ahead and skip over here and prep for the next step in the process. So the next part in our project is starting to put the body bags. That sounds really awful. What can I call this? That sounded awful. I'm sorry, guys. That distracted me a little bit. Yes, you're gonna put the little sleeping bags. Let's call them that. Your little planter sleeping bags. We're gonna put them together now. Okay, so you're going to choose to have one right side out and one wrong side out. So, or inside out really. So it doesn't really matter what you choose to do here. The important thing is that the one that has, that is inside out, with all the raw edges exposed, is going to go inside of the bag that is turned the right side out. So what we're going to do is just stick that guy in there. Okay, and we're going to match up the seams. So seam to seam. See, you got it right here. And you got this one right here. So we're going to match up those up. And we're going to start pinning in place all the way around the top. Okay. And once again, it doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, one looks to be a little bit longer than the other, but that's okay. Just match your edges as closely as possible, and I promise it'll turn out great. Okay, now for this particular pinning, I'm going to pin it on the outside. I like to do that. And again, I'm going to pin with the sharp edge going up. Wonderful. And we're going to do this all the way around. Okay, whoops. Okay, so now you're pinned all the way around. See that? We went all the way around the edge. And once again, you're going to see that I have a little bubble here. That's okay. Just sew it right in there. You won't even notice it. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and take the flatbed attachment off of my machine. And what that is going to do is just, it's going to allow me a little bit better room to turn my fabric as I'm sewing. So it's going to fit into my machine this way. So whenever you're doing any type of work like that, where there's like a tube involved, I always like to recommend to just take your flatbed attachment off and just give yourself that little extra room for your project to fit there, and just you can have better motion. Because if you have your flatbed attachment, it just makes it a little bit harder for you to go ahead and just sew around. So I like to take it off. It gives me a little bit more room. All right, so we're going to start again at where our seams are. But we're going to start there, and we're going to sew all the way around the top. And we're going to go ahead and leave about a 4-inch opening so we can turn the fabric around, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we are all set. So, all right. We're starting here, and once again, we're going to do about a 1/2-inch seam allowance. Okay, I'll let you guys catch up there for a little bit. You know what, guys? I just reviewed my instructions and I kind of did a little misstep. So before I show you how to sew around, I'm gonna pedal back a little bit. I did this wrong, so I just wanted to consult my instructions just because I had an inkling that something was really weird. And before I showed you something wrong, I'm just going to go ahead and take out all my pens. So the outside should be this side that's the wrong. So basically, and if you are following along with your instructions that came along with your email, the wrong side, the one that has all the seams out, that should be the one on the outside of the fabric. So of the, little tube we're making here. So once again, we're just gonna take those pins out. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck this guy back in. I thought there was something weird. I'm like, this doesn't sound right to me. But if anything, it'll give everybody a chance to catch up. And we'll go from there. Yeah, that seems a lot better. So it sits together perfect. Okay. Okay. So in the directions, it'll say that you have the right sides together. And this, in this particular situation, just means that the right side of your seams on each tube is facing each other. So, and the seams are facing out. Okay. So once again, I apologize. I just had to really consult that because as I did it, I was like, this isn't going to turn out the way I think it is. And before I sew, I always like to double check that I did the correct step, because last thing you want to do is sew around just to find out that you did it incorrectly, and then you have to break all those stitches and rip them out. So, So let's see. Wonderful. Okay. There we go. Okay, now I feel a lot more confident about my project. Okay, so I double checked that my instructions were along with the, what I was trying to do here. And so now you're going to see, if you want to double check everything, you're going to see all your seams exposed on the outside and also all of your seams exposed on your inside. So this is the correct way to do it. So seams exposed on both the outside of your tube and the inside of your tube right here. Okay, and now we can go ahead and sew around. Now remember, just leave that 4-inch gap, or you could just leave 4 fingers. That way you can go ahead and turn the project around. Okay, so let's start it. And again, we're going to do about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just, do the best you can. Oh, and another thing, I forgot to readjust my knob. So I'm going to go ahead and back into the straight stitch. I don't think I need to go back and redo those few stitches. So I'm just going to continue on. Now I'm going to go ahead and straighten this little piece right here. There we go. I just puckered a little bit, but that's okay. Now you see that I'm removing my needles as I go along. That's because my my fabric is kind of like puckering on itself. So I'm just doing that so I have a straighter and smoother surface to work on. Once again, that little bubble is going to be sewn into the seam anyway, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, I do this as neatly as possible. Okay, so here it is. And now my bubble is going to go ahead and get sewn in there. And you know what I did, guys? And I always tell you guys to double check and not go too fast. I just sewed around my whole project. So I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to take this out. I'm going to take my seam ripper and I'm going to go ahead and leave that 4 inches out. Now I can't find my seam ripper right now. I'm actually in the process of remodeling my craft room.
Maria, next time I'm going to remind you not to sew all the way around.
Yeah, do you notice
I have to be on cue next time. Be like, okay, stop there.
I always do that. I don't know why. It's just I get, you know, I
almost said it too. I almost said it.
That's really funny. So, but just goes to show it happens. All right, so I went ahead and I opened up my hole, and I have about 4 fingers worth, and I'm just going to stick my hand in there, and I'm going to start turning my project. So that just means that we're turning the fabric that's in there to the right side. Oh, and also I forgot to take a pin out. Give me a second. I don't want to like prick myself here. Oh, I left 2 pins in there. Don't forget to take this out. Let me just double check. No more pins. Okay. Good stuff. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Let's take your time with this. Stick your hand in there. You're going to find that because the canvas is a little bit stiffer, it's not as easy to turn out, but you'll get there. Just work the fabric. Work it, work it, work it. All righty. So you're going to end up with something like this, okay? And simply you can choose to go ahead and put this guy, like the colorful part, into your solid part, or you could choose to do it the other way around. It really just depends on what you want to do. Either way, it's going to be reversible, so you can always interchange and change your mind about it whenever you want. Okay, so voila. So right now you have the right sides all out, no seams are exposed, but you do have your big gap. So what we're going to do is go ahead and tuck that in. Okay, I'm going to take out some of my little threads that are exposed there, just clean that up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and fold those raw edges inside of my project.
Okay, Maria, I do have a question here from a patron. For putting bag inside bag, what is the order?
It doesn't really matter what the order is, as long as the right sides of the fabric are together. So I'm going to show you again just how it was laid out. So the bag inside the bag essentially is going to be, you have, wait, give me 1 second. Let me just back that up and show you. So, sorry, but I just want to make sure that I answer this question to its fullest. this bag inside the bag, it doesn't matter which bag goes inside, you know, which one. Like if the colored one goes inside of the solid or vice versa, it just matters that both of the bags are lined up in the way that your raw edges are together. So what I mean by that is that the bag that's going inside of the outside bag has the raw edges exposed. So you see that right here. So these are all my raw edges. Those are going to be exposed in the bag right here. And the outer bag is going to have its outer edges exposed out here. So really that's the important thing, to have your bag within a bag in the way that both of the raw edges are out.
So in summary, is it right sides together, then sew and turn?
Yes, so right sides together, meaning that the sides where you don't see your seams, that you don't see your, you know, your raw edges, those would be the right sides together. So these right here, that's your right side on this fabric, and that's the right side on that fabric. Those go together, and then you sew, you leave the space, and then you turn. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
I think that really sums it up. I understand.
Awesome. So once again, I'm just going to go turn this over. Any other questions before I turn this over?
So I think that was a good review. I think we're all on the same now.
Okay, cool. Okay. So as I was saying, it doesn't matter which one goes inside which bag. It's whatever your preference is. So for me, I like to have the solid part out. So when I fold it, it's going to have the nice pattern. But you can do it the other way too. Either way, you can reverse it and turn it inside out and I'll be fine. But okay, so I have my bag within a bag all sewn, and you still have your gap here. So that's where you're going to go ahead and fold in your raw edges. Okay, as neatly as possible, tuck that in. And we are going to go ahead and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the top. I'm doing a 1/4 just because I like to stick as closely to the edge as possible for this one. Okay, and once again, we're going to pin those raw edges in place. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and sew all the way around our project to give it a nice finishing touch. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and start this way, where my seam is. Go. Make sure your needle's in the upmost position so your project can slide in there easily. And here we go. Oops, hold on. Sorry, I'm just trying to neatly go ahead. If you do want to go ahead and pin everything around, you can go ahead and do that. I'm not doing it, but you can go ahead and do it if that is your choice. Okay, ready? And go. And here, my friends, is where I'm going to start back stitching, just to make sure that that is secure. So I'm going to take this needle out and forward, and then with my back stitch lever, back stitch and forward stitch again. Okay. All right. I can cut all of my tail ends. Beautiful. Okay, and there you have it. Now you can put your planter in, and you can make a cuff if you want this way. Okay, or you can alternatively go with the colorful side and do a cuff that way.
Definitely the colorful side.
Yeah, I think I like that better too.
Yeah,
Right? It looks nice.
it does.
There we go. And that, my friend, is your fabric planter. And you could also cuff it again, so you have like a nice, you know, kind of like that. You could go anywhere you want with it. But there you go, guys. That is the fabric planter. Ta-da!
That's awesome. Now, did anyone sew along with us? Did anyone want to show us their completed project? We do have
Oh, I
the
hope so.
ability to do that if anyone is done with theirs, or at least at a stage where you want to show. Let us know in the chat. We would love to see what you're working on, or if you have any, if you're stuck anywhere and you want to show it to Maria for a tip, we can also do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a green, right, Maria? Like an olive.
It's an olive green.
Mm-hmm.
It's an olive green. Yeah, duck canvas is funny because they don't really come with in very like pretty colors until you match it up with something like nice.
So we repost all our recordings from videos on our YouTube station. The shortened URL is mcpl.tv. So it's nice and easy to remember. I can also email everybody the direct link to this recorded video after. So anyone who's registered, I will go ahead and resend the directions, the pattern, and the link to this direct video. But again, any of our programs that we've had, most of them, unless we've had some kind of a different agreement with the presenter, are posted on our YouTube station. So we have hundreds of programs and lots of content up there, cooking programs, craft programs. So some of Maria's previous sewing programs, again, on mcpl.tv. So very easy to remember. And that will redirect you to our Middle Country Public Library YouTube station. And there's lots of good stuff up there.
There is. I took a peek the other day and I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. There's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, there's a craft with me category, I believe it's called, and there's all the craft projects we've had. And there's quite a bit because we're doing lots of programs every week. So there's lots of content up there. So, you know, whenever you have a moment, if it's, you know, a rainy day or too hot, you can just go on there and check out some of the programs we have. Do we have any volunteers to show us their project? Is anyone sewing along with us today?
Yes, please show me. I like to see.
Oh,
I think
nice.
that's the one thing I miss from like in-person classes is just seeing everybody's project. I love to see everybody's project.
Yeah. So again, if we have any volunteers, just let me know in the chat. And if not, that's fine. You could always email me your finished project after if you're still working on it, and I'd be happy to share. Oh, okay. We have a volunteer.
Oh, yay!
Oh, then where'd she go?
Oh no.
Unmute. Okay, good.
Oh,
Video.
hi.
All right. I don't know how to switch it around.
You're good. We can see you.
Can you see my project?
See you, Amber. I can't see her.
Yeah.
There it is. Let's see.
Oh,
yay! That looks so cute.
I didn't have the fabric, so I just took from my stash and I did the bottom with that. So
Oh, that is so cute. Is that Raggedy Ann and Andy?
it is, yes.
Oh, I love it.
So I kind of think that not only can you like do a fab, you know, you could use it for any kind of bag, throw stuff in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. That's what's so great about all these projects. You can do so much with them. Like it can be a planter, but it can absolutely be a storage bin or
Yes.
whatever.
Put some handles on it and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Great.
a great idea.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Is
you're
that all your fabric behind you?
That is.
Oh my goodness.
Holy moly. I thought I had fabric. Whoa.
No, I'm on a quest to use it. I'm not buying anything, so I'm
Okay.
quest to use it up before I die.
That's a great goal. That's a great goal. But that came out beautiful. I love it.
It's very
Yeah.
pretty. So
That's
much.
very cute. Very cute. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, yay.
Very
I
cool.
love that.
Okay.
Super cute.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to email me. Everyone has their email, and I can get in touch with Maria. And if you are interested in doing our face mask program next week, we do have a make and take program where you can pick up the fabric and the elastic from us. So we do have some spots left in that, so you can go ahead and sign up. If you have any questions, you can call us at the library. I am here today at extension 112. If anyone wants to call to sign up for that program, I can tell you how that works. So again, it's a DIY fabric face mask. It's this Tuesday, and we still have a few spots if you want to pick up fabric and elastic from us.
Awesome.
Okay. Rita, do you have anything else to add? We'll see you back Tuesday.
We'll see you back Tuesday.
Okay. All right, everyone, have a great night.